the 3200 Yukon stores. We're in video 3 of chapter 9, where we are going to make this. This is a project where this is already done, but we're going to make it right now. I thought it would be useful to be able to see it as we make it. First, we are going to set up the string resource file. So open up resource values strings, and to get this all on one screen, I can now hide that. I'm going to make a few more variables, 4 to be exact. So we can just copy one of those there. And the first is going to be the crime title hint, and that's going to read, as you can see here, I'll read it in case it's too light for you. In gray, enter a title for the crime, and it's got a period. So in green, crime underscore title underscore hint. And then for the actual string, enter a title for the crime. With a period. OK, that looks fine. Now, I'm going to move this over a little bit. I don't need to see both the blueprint and the preview. And that was my longest line. Now, my next line is going to have more in common with the one I just wrote. So I'm going to copy that one again. And this one is going to be crime title label. And that's just going to be that bold crime title. Now I'll do the same for the details. That's going to be crime details label. So I will copy this. And that's just going to be the word details. And finally, I'm going to make one for the checkbox, and it's called solved. Now, why one is large and the other is small, that's going to be the XML code, not something that's in the string file. So this one's going to be called crime solved label. And just the word solved. And that's fine. String resource file is good for now. Now, one resource that I'm not putting in here, let me get this a little bit bigger. There. So one resource that I'm not going to put in there is the, well, you can't see my pointer, but the date, Monday, February 24th, Eastern Standard Time, 2025. And the reason why I'm not putting that in there is that's just going to be a placeholder for what our date is going to look like. And that is really only going to be something that the coder sees, you as you're developing the application. And that's going to be through the XML namespace tools package. And so since the user, the viewer, is never going to see that, I don't need that to be in the string resource file. So I'm going to not put it in there. OK, so now we need to make the user interface for that. And we got to come over here. It is going to be a XML file, so it's going to go in the layout file. I don't need to drill down into layout, but if you're thinking, is this where I'm supposed to put it? And you see activity underscore main there, you'd be like, yep, that's what I'm supposed to do. Layout, new layout, right click, new layout resource folder. Fragment crime detail, you can actually see it right here in the version where it's done. Don't put in the .xml, that'll come along. And here it says that we want a constraint layout. I could change this to a linear layout right now, or I could change that later, but I don't know that I've ever shown on video changing that to linear layout, so I did. So it took a while to generate that file, but you can see there's nothing there, not even hello world, because this isn't the activity underscore main that was automatically generated for me with some fancy, that was sarcasm, default code. So we just go here and we see that it's indeed a linear layout, and it's got one XML namespace, and that's about it. All right, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. In class, I may have put an ID in there, but maybe I'll put that ID in there later when it becomes more relevant. In this video, we're not even going to get it to launch. Android, I want to hide this part because I want you to see the current version of this as I add this line. Android layout margin and set it to 16 dp. Have you ever noticed that whenever we put in some number, density independent pixels, that it's always a multiple of 4? 16, 32, 48. You might even say it's a multiple of 16, but we can go from 16 to 20, and that's perfectly fine, 20 to 24, etc. And that is by design. That is kind of a good style to always use increments of 4. All right, so what did we see? We see this line get added. So even if we had the edge-to-edge working in the main activity, this is saying, yeah, our visuals are not going to go up against the edge, even if that is something that we want to do. OK. So go outside of the end tag for the linear layout, and we're going to begin to put in our information. Now, we're going to have 2 text views. They're not side by side, it's not side by side. That makes it sound like the orientation was horizontal. The orientation is vertical, okay, but they are not neighboring. In between those two, what were large labels, we're going to have our edit text. But we're going to do the 2 text views now. So I'm just going to start typing in text view. I need my begin bracket, otherwise it is not going to give me an autocomplete. And I wish it would give me more here, but it doesn't give me an end tag, and it doesn't give me something like, let's see, width. I want width of match parent, and I want layout of wrap content. Okay, so you need all 3 of those things before the errors go away, and it's runnable, I suppose. You had to have the width and the height, which I get, at least that without the values put in there. And you need to have the end tag. So I'm going to just copy this to make my next text view. Now, these 2 text views, they're just going to be labels. And I'm not going to ever interact with those labels. Therefore, I don't need to go over to some .kt file and program some listener. So I don't even need an ID for those labels. So I'm not going to actually put one. Everything else that I have in this file is going to have an ID, but that comes a little bit later. Android : text appearance. Now, I don't believe that we've done this through code. I'm not even sure if we did it in the attributes menu, but we could. We could come over here to the attributes menu. You could find the line of code that I'm about to type, but it's not always easy to find. $ATTR/ and text appearance. Now, I said that I did not want the Gemini to give me hints, but obviously it is, because alphabetically that didn't come along for the ride when I did this in class, or it didn't come up on top. So what I did, if that didn't come up appearance headline 5, is I went with just something like appearance body 1, and then I started typing this. And the second time I did it, this is what I saw. It put 5 in front of 1, 2, 3, and 6. But the first time I did this, 5 fell in numerical order. But that's what I want, is headline 5. And I'm going to copy that line. Now, once we get our text in there, we could play with that headline 5 a little bit, and you could see what it's really doing. But let's get our text in there. Android : text equals @string, and this one is going to be crime title label I'll copy this, put it here, but this is going to be crime details label. Okay, now we can play around with the headline 5. Maybe if I change it to headline 1, you can see that that is huge. In XML, these are the headlines are just different font sizes, and they're bold. So headline 1 is the largest, 1 is the largest, 6 is the smallest. Feels a little bit counterintuitive when you say it out loud, but you play with it enough and it becomes second nature. All right, in between the two text views, we're going to put our edit text. And I want wrap content for the height and match parent for the width almost all the time. This is going to be the one exception, and I'll show you why. Because it gives me an error up here, and it says that the no speakable text. Yeah, I'll put that text in a bit, but it also says the touch target is too small. And if I click on this, it says that height is 45 dp, consider 48 or higher. Okay, so we're going to change this to 48 dp, and then that error goes away, and off to the races. Okay, now we're going to put in, we could put in text, but if we put in text, and we've done this before, we did this in Robot, no, we did this in Hello World. If we put in text, it'll be black, and if later we put in hint and it's gray, the black text is going to win the battle over the gray hint. I'm pretty sure. Let me actually test that. Android text is equal to @string, and then I want the crime title hint. All right, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to change text to hint, and it's still black. All right, now let's see if I was right, which honestly I'm not 100% sure, because it could have been the order in which they were placed in the file, but nope, I was right. So the black text is beating the gray hint. So we got to get rid of that in order to see the gray hint there. All right, next up is a line that I don't think I've shown before. Android important for autofill and set it to no. And this is for if you are in some form online and you start typing and it wants something that might be saved in your Windows or your iOS as like a default. You start typing your name and it looks like it wants to autofill, you tab, and then it puts in your first name, your last name, your address, your phone number, stuff like that. And sometimes it does it right and sometimes it does it wrong. That might be a form where it says important for autofill, yes, or some other option besides no. But we're going with no. And Android input type, set that equal to text. Now, even though it's text, instead of like, well, let's see, what else can we see on here? Oh, well, since we type text, we have all information that deals with text, but we could have a number, or we could have phone. Even though it says text, it still is something that we're going to have to change into a string by calling the .toString in the .kt side of things in order to use this, but this just says we want text. Now, why would that be of some use? Well, if I said that it's a number and I use the app's keyboard for that, then it would bring up a number pad. But if I say it's text, it'll bring up letters. And if I, have some other option, maybe it'll be both. Okay, so that looks good. Now we're going to put in a button. We're going to do that after the text view. Oh, I said that looks good, but I do remember I forgot the ID because I did say that in our text view, everything will have an ID, but I will fix that in a little bit. You know what? I'm going to just take this because that's going to happen for my button, and that's going to happen for my checkbox as well. Okay, let's give these guys IDs. We can do the checkbox first, since my cursor's close to that. Android ID equals, in quotes, @ plus ID / and crime _ solved, making this up on the fly. Underlined it at first, but that's fine. If I paste this here, it will definitely not go away because I can't give two things the same ID. Now within the same namespace here, crime date, and the edit text. This one's going to be crime title. Okay, now my edit text looks like it's done. What else for the button? Okay, for the button, it had the date in there. Now that date is going to use the tools XML namespace. So I start typing tools here, and it won't know what it is because I needed to go to the top and put in that namespace. Now there are three. The other one is app. So if I had any functions that were in that particular namespace, then I'd have to bring in a line like this. So now tools, well, actually I'm going to go tools, and I would think I would get an appropriate autocomplete. I'm going to try again. Well, yeah, sorta. Okay, tools : text. Okay, I did eventually. But it's fine to say tools empty text, and look, it's not gray anymore. Tools.text is equal to, and I'm going to put in today's date. It is Wednesday, February 26th, Eastern Standard Time, 2025. And that shows up in here. Whether we make these all caps or these all caps, matter of preference. I think it probably looks better with all caps. Don't know if I do that in class or not. All right, and the checkbox, we're going to give it some text. And why is that checkbox in the center? I'm a little curious about that. Android : text is equal to, in quotes, @ string / and then crime solved label. Okay, well, once I gave it text next to it, it did not center itself. So it's interesting that the default was that it centers itself, because I wasn't expecting that. Everything else is left justified. Now this is left justified. Okay, and that's where I'm going to leave off in this video. We have now created our project. We've put in our strings so that we could use them in our user interface. And we've coded, for most part, our fragment _crime.xml. In our next video, we will we'll make our crime class, and then we will make sure that whenever we launch our app, that this is what gets seen. All right, I'll see you in those videos.